Welcome to the Shift Your Story, Change Your Life podcast. I'm Allie Rose, certified clinical hypnotherapist and subconscious success coach. I help my clients stop self-sabotage and feel safe to create more wealth, worth, and wellness from within. If you find yourself stuck repeating the same unhelpful patterns in your life, health, business, or relationships, even after all the mindset work, this podcast is for you. Each week, you'll hear deep dives into the hidden beliefs shaping your life and live hypno coaching sessions where someone shifts a block in real time. Because willpower isn't the problem, your subconscious story is. And when you shift it at the root, everything else begins to change. So let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to the Shift Your Story, Change Your Life podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about the shame of knowing better and still not doing better, still doing the same thing. And if that sentence made your whole body slightly clench or tighten, this episode is probably for you. But we're going to be looking at it through a lens where we lift the shame, we don't add more on. Because I know that there is a very specific type of frustration that happens when you are not confused anymore. You know your pattern, you know your wounds, and you know the thing that you're doing and the thing that you should be doing instead. You know the healthier response, the more mature, healed, best version of you response. And then the actual moment comes, and suddenly it's like all the awareness that you had has completely left your mind. Or worse, the awareness is still there. You are fully aware of what's happening. You can practically narrate it in real time. It's like you're having this weird meta moment where you're watching yourself choose the old pattern with full consciousness. And there's something about that that feels so humiliating and almost out of control. Because it's one thing to not know better, it's another thing to know better and still feel like you can't quite do better in the moments when it matters the most. And that's what I want to talk about today. And like I said, I want to do it in a way that lifts the shame because I've been there. And honestly, if just choose differently worked, most of us would have chosen differently by now. And I know with 100% certainty that shaming ourselves or anyone else very rarely changes anything long term. So I want to talk about what is actually happening when you know better but still do the same thing. Because I know that a lot of very self aware women are doing the work, but they're walking around carrying a level of private shame that no one sees. And I know this because this is who I work with. So from the outside, they look capable, they look smart, and they are. They look like they have their life together. They're the people that others point to and say they have their life together. They're the ones that people come to for insight. They're the ones giving the friend the perfect advice. And then behind closed doors, they're thinking, why am I still doing this? Why do I understand this pattern and still feel like this pattern owns me? That is such a painful place to be because awareness without change can start to feel like evidence against you. It starts to feel like, well, now I have no excuse. Before, maybe you could tell yourself, I didn't know, I didn't see the pattern yet. But once you see it, it's like you can't unsee it. It feels like you should be done with it. So, for example, if it's people pleasing, you might say to yourself after you have an interaction, why did I just say yes? And then the shame spiral can start. And it's not just shame about the pattern, but it becomes shame about still having the pattern. And that's a really important distinction. Because at first, the pain might be, I don't like to people please. But after a while, especially after a lot of inner work, it becomes, I can't believe that I'm still doing this. I can't believe that I'm still falling into people pleasing. And that second layer of, I can't believe I'm still doing this, that shame is heavy. It's a shame of feeling like you should have graduated from this by now. You're self aware enough to know what's happening, but not yet embodied enough to choose differently consistently. And I want you to know that that does not mean that you are failing. It means that awareness and embodiment are not the same thing. I always say to my clients, there's a very big difference between head knowledge and heart knowledge. Knowing the pattern is not the same as being able to fully embody and shift the pattern. Understanding why you do something is not the same as feeling safe enough to do it. And this is where a lot of people get stuck, and especially high achieving, deeply self aware people who have done a lot of work, because you're used to figuring things out. You're used to taking in information, understanding it, applying it, and moving forward in most areas of your life. So when you fully understand something about yourself and still feel caught in it, it can feel like your own mind is betraying you. And the reason is that your conscious mind can understand something long before your subconscious mind feels safe enough to release it. And that's really where these different parts of you come in. It's like we say this all the time, there's a part of me that this, and there's a part of me that this. And sometimes those two parts are at odds. So your conscious mind may understand that saying no is healthy, but your subconscious may still associate saying no with losing love or disappointing people. Your conscious mind might understand that being visible matters for your work. I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. They know that it matters to be visible for their business, their calling, their purpose, to create more impact, income. But their subconscious may still associate being visible with criticism, rejection, or abandonment. Your conscious mind might understand that looking at your money is responsible and will be better for you in the long run. But your subconscious mind may still associate money with shame, pressure, or proof that you're behind. So, yes, you may know better, but the part of you repeating the pattern is not usually the part that needs more information. It's the part that needs more safety, more evidence, more support, and more practice with the new way of being. And this is why telling yourself, I know better, so I should do better, can feel so awful. Because technically, yes, awareness matters, but that phrase can become a weapon that you use against yourself. Because what happens when you don't do better? For a lot of women, it becomes an immediate character assassination. I'm lazy, I'm inconsistent, I'm a failure, I'm all talk, not as evolved as I thought, not as healed as I thought. And then suddenly the pattern is no longer just a pattern, it's a full blown identity. And once you turn a pattern into an identity, every single repetition becomes evidence that you're right about yourself. You avoid the thing, and your brain says, see, this is who we are. You overgive again, and your brain says, see, you always do this. So now you're not just working with the original pattern, you're working with the shame spiral that comes after the pattern. And here's the thing, for a lot of people, the shame after the pattern is what keeps the pattern alive. Shame creates hiding. It creates that screw it, I already ruined it feeling. It makes you want to disappear from the very thing that would help you come back. So if every time you repeat a pattern and you attack yourself for having repeated it, your system starts associating the healing process with punishment. So, of course, some part of you resists looking at it. Every time you go there, you feel like garbage. And this is why I really want to shift the whole conversation. Instead of asking, why am I still doing this when I know better? I want you, so instead of asking, why am I still doing this when I know better? I want you to start asking, what part of me still feels safer doing the old thing? That question changes everything because why am I still doing this often comes with judgment. What part of me still feels safer doing the old thing comes with curiosity. And curiosity gives you access to the pattern in a way shame never will. All right, let's get practical. Let's say that you know that you need to set a boundary. You have journaled about it. You've talked to your therapist about it. You've maybe written out the exact script in your notes app. You know that the current dynamic of a relationship isn't working. You know that when you leave that relationship dynamic that you're resentful and that every time you say yes when you mean no, something inside of you gets a little bit angrier and a little bit more tired. So you tell yourself, the next time that this comes up, I'm going to say no. And then the moment comes, someone asks, you feel that pressure rise, your body tightens, your mind starts calculating, will they be mad? Will they think I'm selfish? Will they pull away? Will it just be easier to say yes and resent them later? And before you know it, that yes is out of your mouth. And afterward, you are furious, not just at them, but at yourself because you knew. But what if instead of turning on yourself, you asked, what did my system believe would happen if I said no? Because the issue may not be that you don't know how to set a boundary. The issue may be that your subconscious still associates boundaries with disconnection. So your system chooses the resentment it knows over the rejection it fears. Is that serving you long term? No. Does it make sense as a protective pattern? Absolutely. And when you see that, you can stop shaming yourself long enough to actually work with it. Or let's talk about money because this is a big one. You know that you need to look at your numbers or that you need to raise your prices. You need to stop discounting. You know, and still your chest tightens and your brain gets foggy and you think, all right, I'll look at it later. I already basically know what's going on. I just need to get through this week. And then later you feel ashamed because you are smart, you're capable, you're an adult. You know the numbers don't just disappear because you avoid them. But again, let's get curious. What does your system actually associate with money? Does it feel like safety and choice and freedom? Or does it feel like pressure, shame, proving, scarcity, being behind? Because if money has an emotional charge in your subconscious, looking at the numbers isn't just checking the numbers. It may feel like opening up a folder of shame. It may feel like proof that you're not where you thought you would be. And this is such an important piece. A lot of what we call self sabotage is really just an attempt to avoid a feeling. You're not avoiding the post, you're avoiding the feeling of being judged. You're not avoiding the boundary, you're avoiding the feeling of someone being disappointed in you. You're not avoiding the money, you're avoiding the feeling of shame or pressure or responsibility. So you're avoiding a feeling. Once you understand that, the work becomes more compassionate because now we're not just saying, force yourself to do the thing. We're asking, what feeling does this bring up? And what does your subconscious believe that feeling means? This is the deeper work. And this is where things start to shift because knowing better is intellectual. Doing differently requires emotional capacity. It requires being able to tolerate the discomfort that the old pattern was designed to avoid. It's not enough to say, I know I should set a boundary. Can you sit with the guilt after? Can you tolerate someone's disappointment? Can you tolerate being misunderstood? It's not enough to say, I know I should be visible. Can you tolerate the vulnerability of being seen? Can you tolerate being imperfect in public? That is why the shame of knowing better is so painful. Awareness is powerful. Please don't hear me saying that awareness doesn't matter. Awareness is the doorway. It gives you the language. It helps you stop making everything about what's wrong with you. It's often the first breath of relief, but awareness is not the entire transformation. At some point, awareness has to move into action. It has to move into grounded, repeatable, pattern interrupting action, the kind that happens in the real moment, the moment where the old version of you would usually take over. And this is where a lot of people need support because patterns are practiced in relationship with real life. It's very hard to shift a pattern only in theory. You can understand self abandonment perfectly in your journal, but the shift happens when someone asks for something and you pause long enough to check in with yourself. You can understand visibility fear perfectly as you listen to a podcast episode, but the shift happens when you share something honest before the protective part edits it out and turns it into something safer. The shift happens in the moment, and that is also where the old pattern tends to be the loudest. So if you've been shaming yourself for knowing better and still not doing better, still doing the same thing, I want you to consider that maybe you're not lacking awareness. You're not lacking some secret plan that everybody else who is successful in this part of their life has. Maybe you're lacking support in the exact moment where awareness needs to become embodiment. This is a very different story and it gives you somewhere to go. Because if the story is, I know better and I still don't do better because there's something wrong with me, there's nowhere to go except shame. But if the story is, I know better and now I need to practice doing differently in the moment that the pattern is active, now we have a path. Now we can make the shift smaller. Now we can build evidence and create accountability. We can stop expecting one realization to undo a pattern that your system has practiced for years. And please, I want you to hear that part. Some of these patterns have been practiced for years. Some of them have started so early that they don't even feel like patterns. They just feel like part of who you are. They feel like your personality. They may feel like this is just how I am or this is just who I am. So you're not just changing a behavior, you're interrupting an identity that may have helped you belong or survive or succeed. And that deserves compassion. Not letting the pattern run your life forever, but compassion, because compassion gives you the steadiness to keep practicing. Shame burns the whole thing down. Shame is where like we're burning everything down to the ground and we're starting over on Monday. Compassion lets you return to yourself even after you mess up. And returning to yourself is everything. Because the goal is not to never repeat the pattern again. I know that's what we want. We want the clean break. The old version disappears to say, I used to do that, but now I'm healed. And honestly, that's very lovely. But the more realistic goal is that you notice sooner, you recover faster, you make the pattern less automatic. You stop turning one rep into proof that nothing is changing. You build the ability to come back to yourself faster. That is how real change happens. The woman who repeats a pattern and disappears for a month is in a very different place than the woman who repeats a pattern, notices it, learns from it, and comes back the next day. That's the difference between a shame cycle and momentum. Momentum does not require perfection. Momentum requires returning to yourself day after day after day, even when you mess up. You don't need to never fall into the old pattern in order to be changing. You need to stop making the old pattern the end of the story. You need to stop saying, see, this is just who I am. And that's really what I want you to take from this episode. Not should I know better, not should I be further along, or I can't believe I'm still dealing with this. I want you to take this. The fact that you can see the pattern is not proof that you should be done with it. It's proof that you are ready to work with it differently. You are ready to move from awareness into practice, from insight into embodiment, from shaming the pattern to interrupting it. And this is exactly why I created Mind Shifts and Momentum the way that I did, because so many women in my world do not need another massive life overhaul or more information that they can use to judge themselves and determine that they're behind. They need support in that moment where knowing needs to become doing. They need to take the awareness that they already have and turn it into one small action step that they can actually practice. The heart of this membership is awareness, action, and accountability. Awareness so you can see the pattern without turning it into shame. Action so the insight doesn't just live in your head forever. And accountability so you're not shifting deeply rooted patterns alone, spiraling and starting over and over and over again. Inside the membership, we're not trying to fix your entire life. We're choosing one small change, one shift that is connected to the pattern, one shift that you can do over and over and over again that gives your subconscious new evidence. Because so many high achieving women dismiss the small evidence. Well, it was only 10 minutes. It was only one boundary. I said no once. It was only one moment. But what if that is exactly where your new identity begins? What if it's not small because it's meaningless? What if it's small because it's repeatable? And repeatable is what your subconscious starts to trust. So for today, your invitation is simple. Notice one place where you have been saying, I know better. Why am I still doing this? Just one. Don't turn this into a full life audit. Just notice one place. Maybe it's a boundary, being more visible, money, telling the truth, being honest. And instead of shaming yourself, I want you to ask yourself, what does this part of me believe would happen if I chose differently? That question alone really softens something because now you're not fighting yourself, you're listening. You're beginning to understand the protective pattern underneath the repeated behavior. And from there, you can choose one small shift, one small change, one tiny interruption of the old story, and you start to build proof. And the part is able to see, oh, wow, you did the small thing and I didn't die. Nothing bad happened. Okay, maybe I could do that again. And then you do it again. And you start to build more evidence, more proof that you can actually do the thing and nothing bad will happen to you. If this is resonating with you, make sure that you are on the waitlist for Mind Shifts and Momentum. Doors officially open on June 22nd, and anyone who joins in June will lock in founding member pricing, and you will also get a custom hypnosis audio recording tailored to the specific pattern that you are ready to shift. You can head to therootedwellnesscollective.com/mindshifts or click the link in the show notes. And please remember this, knowing better does not mean that you will be perfect. Doesn't mean that you should be perfect. It just means that you are aware enough to begin choosing differently. And choosing differently doesn't always happen all at once. Sometimes it begins with a pause, one compassionate question, one small moment where you stop turning your pattern into proof that you're failing and start treating it like it's information that can finally take you somewhere new. I hope that this was helpful. I'm sending you so much love and gratitude. Until next time. Bye. Thank you so much for joining us today for this episode of the Shift Your Story, Change Your Life podcast. If today's conversation sparked something in you, I'd love to hear about it. Feel free to send me a message on social media. I'm at the Allie Rose on both Facebook and Instagram. And if you want to be coached on a future episode or explore what it would look like to work with me one-on-one, head over to shiftyourstorypodcast.com. And if you never want to miss an episode, make sure to subscribe and leave a rating and review. It helps more people find this work. Until next time, keep shifting, keep growing, and most importantly, I want you to remember that your story isn't set in stone. You always have the power to shift it.